it's Heidi Rain. Welcome back for another video. I created an online women's group, a support group actually, for people who are wrestling with all sorts of issues, but codependency is one of them. And it came up last week. I always ask them, hey, what do you guys really want to talk about so that I'm serving you? You know, I have my ideas of what I think you need, but you tell me what you need and I'll deliver it for you. Anyway, last week, this topic that came up unanimously was how to make friends. And this is really interesting, right? Because I think sometimes we take it for granted, especially in a world today where we look like we might have a lot of friends, especially through our social media. But Johan Hari, who did a video a long time ago on everything you think about addiction is wrong, talks a lot about connection and depression and anxiety. And, you know, his whole theory about addiction being a disease of disconnection more than anything else. It's an inability to connect to other people in a way that's genuine and authentic. And because we can't bond to people, we bond to substances instead. And this is why this is really important. He made a point that I found so fascinating where I talked about social media gives us a parody of intimacy, a parody of our friendships, meaning it's not really real. It's just like if sex is something that people want to have, porn would be the parody of sex. If I watch porn, I feel like I'm participating in sex, even though I'm not really participating in it at all in a real meaningful way. And social media has become a parody of friendships and relationships. Like we feel like we're participating in them, but we're not really participating in them. And I get it, especially because, you know, when I was a life coach working inside of a drug and alcohol treatment center for 7 years where I facilitated groups, time after time, one of the biggest issues that people would represent was their inability to connect with other people. And they would find that they would make friends through their using or through their drinking or what have you, because one of the hardest things for them was actually being comfortable and confident in their own skin. And actually, after a lot of those people got sober, finding new friendships became a real challenge. Here's the deal. When you're young, it's kind of easy to make friendships, right? Like when you're, I mean, for most people, right? You make friends when you're a little kid and you know, because you're in school with them, your proximity and you're around them. And so it's easier when you're around people all the time. But the older that you get, where are you making your friends? Especially for the people that I know that have been, you know, in recovery or quit drinking or don't go out anymore. Like, where do you meet people? And how do you make new friends? And if you throw into that mix like any kind of social anxiety or introversion, which I have both of those things. I'm very introverted and I have a lot of anxiety. Meeting people can really be like throwing darts with spaghetti, you know, in the dark. Like you're like, miss. So and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you some tips today, but here's the reality. I'm not the best at this still. I still have to work really hard at this. I still have to try even harder than probably most people would because of some things I'm going to talk with you about today. So I don't have the lock on friendships, right? But I do know that I'm working really hard at it, and I've worked hard at it and have created some amazing new friendships in my life that are very fulfilling for me. And I want the same for you, because without those deep, meaningful, real life connections, we end up feeling lonely, isolated, and more depressed. And then we numb or medicate in order to cope, or kind of like facilitate some kind of parody of connection through Facebook or social media, but it's not real and it's not really fulfilling for us. So I want to help you today. I'm going to give you some tips and some things that I've learned along the way that have helped me, and hopefully they'll be helpful for you too. And I made some notes. So the first ticket to really making new friendships is really understanding yourself. So I used to think that I was this big extroverted person who had no problem meeting new people. And then I got sober and I didn't have any alcohol around me. And I realized, oh my goodness, I'm actually an introvert. I'm actually very shy. It's actually very hard for me to make small talk or be in a big, one-on-one. I'm better in a group of people than I am one-on-one sometimes, or depending upon what I'm talking about, maybe I'm better one-on-one than in a group of people. So the goal is to really get to know yourself really well and understand yourself. How do you like to be in friendships? I used to think I was a person that liked to be around people all the time, but when I really got to know myself, I discovered I'm actually an introvert. I actually enjoy being alone. So instead of forcing myself to be involved in friendships and do lots of things that I don't really want to do, I actually just participate in the things that really sound great to me, but I don't feel bad about being a type of person who doesn't need to be around a ton of people all the time, right? So when you understand yourself, you stop comparing and judging. Oh, my other friends like to do all these things together and they're on the phone 900 times a day, but maybe you're not wired that way. Maybe you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just that you prefer to kind of interact, more sporadically or a little less. But if you know yourself very well and you make a new friend, let's say you're like me and you don't like to be like on the phone 24 hours a day over each other's houses every 5 seconds. You like to be friends with somebody, but not be that enmeshed with them. If you know that about yourself, then you can communicate that with other people instead of just like expecting them to understand you or know you. You can say that going in. So if you do need to take a few steps back after you maybe go away with your friends somewhere and then you need a week to just kind of like decompress and you had a great time, but you need a week to yourself now to kind of like recharge your batteries, say that to them so that they understand, oh, she's not just like ghosting me or not coming around me anymore. She's actually the type of person that prefers solitary time or to be by herself. And it means nothing about me or the friendship, and she'll be back around after she like recharges her batteries, right? But if you don't say that to somebody, they're left to wonder what's wrong with them, why aren't you interacting with them? And that can be really hard to maintain friendships or even make friendships if you're not understanding yourself well enough and not articulating it to other people. So that's number one. You have to know, what kind of friend are you? It works in reverse. If you're the type of friend who likes a lot of attention, who needs a lot of engagement, you should probably go in saying that too. Hey, look, I really, I like to be around all the time. I like my friends to be around me all the time. So, if it ever gets too much for you, just tell me, and I won't take it personally, but just so you know, I tend to like really want to, be with my friends a lot. So understand yourself is number one. It's key. Number two, in learning how to cultivate new friendships is to, okay, this is going to be a little interesting. I'm going to put it this way. In order to have friendships and to make new friendships, you actually have to clean house of the friendships that you already have. You have to be willing to be without friends. Wow, what? I have to have no friends to get more friends? Well, the first thing you need to do is do a friend inventory. Look at the people that are around you right now. Are they really adding value to your life? Are they friends? You become the 5 people you hang around with most. Are there some friends that maybe some friendships you've outgrown that you need to walk away from, that you need to like deconstruct and or renegotiate or be in a different way? Because that sometimes it's not that you don't have any friends at all. It's that maybe you have one really good friend and 5 wrong friends that aren't right for you. So you have to be willing to be a realist in looking at the relationships that you have and say, am I settling? Am I feeling so lonely that I'm surrounding myself with people that aren't good for me, that I'm tolerating really bad behavior? Here's a really good barometer. If you're around a bunch of people and you find that you're acting out of character, that maybe this is a group of people that are mean or they do things you wouldn't normally do, and you find yourself joining in on that behavior, being mean with them or acting out of character for yourself, and that's a really good indicator that you're settling just to have connection and company. But you're settling for connection with them at the cost, the price of disconnecting from yourself. So the connection feels even more disconnected because it's inauthentic. It's not who you really are. And when you honor that and say, okay, yes, you might be alone, but I'll tell you something. If you disconnect from the friendships that are actually causing you more harm than good, you will be alone, but you won't feel lonely. Do you understand the difference? Like, you can be in a friendship with a group of people that aren't right for you, and you feel lonely inside of that friendship because it's out of integrity with who you are. It's out of alignment with who you are. Or you could be alone and not feel lonely at all because you feel connected to yourself. Right? So look around, evaluate the friendships that you have, and maybe clean some house, right? Okay. The third thing that I want you to do, and I use this as goes back from like dating advice, is don't wait for friends to do the things that you really want to do, to have the experiences that you really want to have. When people were single, I would give that advice all the time and say, well, what do you really like to do? Oh, well, I like to boat, or I like to paint. Well, start taking those classes, start doing those things, and you will likely meet other people who have the same interests and values as you do. Some of my most lifelong friends, the best friends that I've ever made, really close people I've met doing things that I really have loved to do, which is self-improvement seminars, or engaging in things like charity work where we're in the trenches and giving back together. Or dance classes. I've developed some great friendships just taking dance, but all these things I had to be willing to do alone at first, to put myself out there and be the lone ranger and kind of awkward. One of the bravest things I ever did is I wanted to, well, not the bravest things, but one thing that I did that I thought was pretty cool is that I really wanted to take a trip abroad, but I had no friends that could afford at the time to go with me. So I booked a trip by myself. Now it was a tour, right? So it was like a guided thing. I went to Italy for 10 days all alone. And what I learned there is that sometimes we feel like we need these relationships in our lives because we're not okay by ourselves. If you can cultivate the ability to be okay being alone and really thoroughly enjoy your own company and do the things that you want to do, whether somebody comes along with you or not, likely those people will show up because you'll be a magnet, right? For people who are thinking the same way you're thinking and enjoying the same things that you're enjoying, but you'll come from a different position of like, I don't necessarily have to settle for any friends that come my way because I'm feeling so lonely, but more I'm comfortable in my own skin and being by myself, and people who come alongside me are now adding value to me, not taking from me or I'm taking from them. We're adding value to each other, and you get more discerning in your friendships when you do enjoy your own company because you're not settling because you don't need the company necessarily, but you prefer it. I hope that makes sense. So start doing the things that you really want to do. Don't wait. And then the last thing that I think is probably the most, well, there's two things I think are the most important things. Here's the first one. You have to be willing to speak your truth in your friendships. And this is how you really deepen your connections and you really understand who your real friends are, and you start to figure out what's not for you and what's for you is when you speak your truth. Meaning, when you're a little kid and somebody does something to you that hurts your feelings. I remember when I was a little kid, I had this best friend in the world, and she came to me one day and told me she was best friends with somebody else. And it's like, you can't hide the devastation. Like you're so wounded, you're trying to pretend like you're not bothered. But, 9 times out of 10, when you expressed that, if you did, oh my gosh, that really hurt my feelings, and wow, I'm really upset, your friend comes back because you were real about what is going on with you. So even as an adult, you have to be willing to say to your friends, that hurt me, I'm bothered by that, I don't like that, I don't want to do that, this is what I need from you. So once you understand yourself and you accept who you are, you can articulate that to other people so that they get to know you better. One of the challenges that I've had in my life is just kind of wanting to make sure I'm whoever you need me to be in my friendships instead of really being who I am. And the more I've cultivated the ability to just be real and be honest and tell people what I think and what I feel, the more I've really discovered, oh wow, these are the friendships that really are going to be the right friendships for me, because those people, when I express my opinions or share who I really am, even when they're different from other people, they might not agree with me, but they can accept it, right? They can say, oh, I don't think that way, but that's okay that you do. They don't try to convince me of how to think or feel or try to get me to change my mind so that we can all be the same. We respect each other's differences, and that's a really good place to start from. So don't be afraid to be who you are. Like I say this all the time, where your job isn't to try to fit in, find a group of friends and like fit in. And that's how we spend most of our young life, right? Your job is to really stand out and be who you are and find your tribe. That it's not to, try to be whoever you need to be. It's to be who you really are. And don't be worried if you're turning off a lot of people who say, oh, I don't like that, I don't like who you are, I don't like how you show up in the world. Well, then honey, you're not for me, right? It's not my job to fit in, it's my job to find my tribe. And that's the same it is with you. And you have to be prepared that you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. You know, you're not everybody's flavor. There's Leo Buscaglia talks about this old story of the peach and the plum. And there was this plum who tried really hard to be a peach, you know, and she could do everything she could, you know, to be a peach, but people would eat the plum and go, this doesn't taste, you know, I prefer peaches. So she would try her whole life to be more like a peach and look like a peach, but it was for naught because she was a plum. You know, her job wasn't to find people who would settle for a second-rate peach. It was to find people who really love first-rate plums. And so it is with you. When you're fully yourself and you're fully expressed and you're speaking your truth and you're being who you are, that's when you're really going to start to gravitate, and you're going to find the people that are genuinely connected to you for all the right reasons. And then the last thing is, and I'm bad, this is where I'm bad at, okay? And this is where I struggle and I have to continually work, is treating your friendships like you would a garden. And you know, you have to sow seeds in the garden, you know, which is picking up the phone, remembering to reach out to those people, to call them, to connect with them, to make an effort to get together. And that's why it's really hard for people that are older, especially who have lives and have children. How do you do that? You know, how do you carve out the time? Well, you know your friendships are important to you. Unfortunately, you only know your friendships are important to you when you realize that they've gone to the wayside. Too much time has gone by. Yes, of course, we all have those friends that we can pick up the phone like no time has gone by, but that's not really what true friendship is really about. True friendship is really about sowing the seeds and being available and consistently being in there. Now, you're not just sowing the seeds, which is time, attention, love, affection, all of those wonderful things. You also are weeding your garden. And that means that, like I said earlier, being willing to pull out the weeds, the people that maybe aren't right for you. I've been involved in friendships where, you know, like it's a group thing and maybe one of the people is like bringing the whole, you know, weeding, killing off the entire friendship. You have to be willing to stand up and go, oh, plucking that weed. Not like you're going to eradicate that person, but you're going to say, hey, look, if you guys are going to hang around and, you know, invite me when it's just us, because this is really how I feel the best. You don't have to settle. Right? You don't have to, you know, be around people that you don't like. That's not how this works. You know, hey, how old are we? We don't have to be around. You're not sitting next to somebody in third grade like, oh shit, I guess I got to sit next to you because your name is a B and mine's a C. No, that's not how this life works. You don't have to be around anybody you don't want to be around. You don't have to be with people you don't want to be with. You get to pick. This isn't dodgeball. You're not lined up waiting for somebody to pick you like, oh shit. You know, you choose. You get to pick. You're the team captain of your own dodgeball team. You get to pick. Isn't that cool? I think a lot of us are waiting around to be chosen. You get to choose. So you weed the garden. You pull out the stuff that's not working for you. Maybe you started a friendship with somebody in a certain circumstance and you were lined up on the same page, but then you outgrew the friendship and you're starting to be like this poppy, you're like coming through, right? Or tulip, and you're growing and the weeds try to choke you, strangle you back down in. Time to chop the weed. You know, that happens. You meet somebody at a certain level or place in your life and you're both commiserating about how bad shit is and you're like, oh, this is terrible. And then all of a sudden you outgrow your problems, but they stay stuck. But they're like a virus. They're strangling off your success. They're trying to kill off your oxygen. They don't want you to get to the sun because they're afraid you're going to leave them behind. Well, maybe you should. Maybe it's time. You know, loyalty, like, oh yeah, I got to ride or die. The only loyalty you really need to be conscious of right now is the loyalty to you, right? People want somebody to be loyal to them. Well, you be loyal to you. Stop bailing on you. Stop sacrificing and doing the things that you know, don't want to do in the name of, you know, being loyal. But you're a martyr because you're in something you don't want to be in, right? Does that make sense? I don't want that for you. So tend your garden, weed it, sow seeds. And be willing to, you know, water it and do what needs to be done. Now, this advice doesn't just work with friendships. Obviously, it works in all kind of relationships that you're in. But hopefully, you found this helpful. I know, you know, it can be tough, but if you're willing to just first figure out what type of friend you are and really come to terms with understanding yourself and how you work best and accepting that, and then you're willing to weed out and tend and evaluate the situation that you're in now and kind of get rid of the friends who are making you feel lonely and you feel more connected alone. And then you speak your truth and be willing to be who you are fully and not try to be who everybody else needs you to be. And then you meet those friends by doing the things that you want to do. You don't wait for somebody to come alongside of you. And then you tend to the friends that you make. You should be good. The last piece is a bonus tip I'm going to give you. Sometimes the connection that we crave isn't necessarily in just the friendships that we're trying to seek. Maybe it is in finding a way to be valuable and add value. There's lots of people that are seeking connection and need friends. They're living in senior citizen homes that nobody's coming to visit them. Go visit them. Go be a friend to somebody in need. Go to volunteer at a homeless shelter. Be a friend to somebody in need. Go sit with somebody, whether you go to church or don't go to church. Offer your time and your friendship to somebody who maybe is craving it. Not necessarily finding your way into things, but finding somebody who's like waiting for your friendship. Or something that I find really super helpful is join a tribe. I have the Flow community, which is our online tribe of women that are connecting, uplifting, support each other. Go to a women's retreat where you can meet new friends. We're hosting one coming up soon. So, sometimes you have to be, well, Heidi, I shouldn't have to pay to come into a group to make friends. Well, honey, sometimes you do. If you want to meet quality people, sometimes you need to invest in yourself and to meet those quality people that are just like you. They're not going to settle for anything less either. And they're bettering themselves and they're on the page of growth and aspiring to be better versions of themselves. And they've invested in themselves, and maybe you should too, so that you can have access to other women that are just like you. If you're interested in that, go to HeidiRain.com and go on join membership. Find out more. There's an application to fill out there. But I'd love to have you in my tribe to deepen our connection. We do a video thing once a week. We all come together where we can see each other and form our friendships and deepen our connection. But otherwise, hopefully these tips help. Let me know which one you think was most helpful for you and how you're going to apply it. And I look forward to seeing you in another video. All right. Take excellent care of yourself. Until then, bye-bye.